guys? Back out here in the shop, get a little more work done on the car. I broke down and made a I don't know, to-do list, I guess you would call it, to make it so I hopefully don't forget something and I make sure everything's 100% before we get this thing fired up and get it to the track. And it's long, I guess is the best way to put it. There's a lot of stuff that still needs to be done on this. And like I said before, it's a lot of little stuff, but you know, when you got 50 little things to do, it adds up to quite a bit of time. So just one of them things. I just gotta keep my head down, keep working, and before I know it, hopefully everything on that list will be crossed off, and we'll be going down the track. So I'm gonna take a look at the list, see what I want to do next, and we'll go ahead and get started on it. Alright, so there's the start of my to-do list. There's still things on that I need to add to the list, but I haven't thought of them yet. As I come across them, I'll make sure to add them so I don't forget to do it. I've done a few things that I didn't video, mostly because it's wiring, and I hate wiring. I'm not very good at it. I can make the stuff functional, but making it look good, that's another thing. But I did get the lower intake bolted down, gaskets put in, new bolts put in, torqued, ready to go. I got this 1-inch spacer. The main reason I got this was when the alternator was, mounted where it normally goes, I was going to have clearance issues, so I was going to use the 1-inch spacer to get me a little more clearance over the alternator. Now that the alternator's moved, I don't necessarily need to use the 1-inch spacer, but any more plenum volume that we can gain will help us in the top end where this thing is going to be living at. So with the new hood, the 4-inch hood, we don't really have to worry about hood clearance as much. So I can run this 1-inch spacer and get away with it no problem. So I'm going to throw it on there and see what it looks like. If it looks fine and I like it, I'll go ahead and bolt that down and that'll be finished. Another thing I did, you can see over there where the red paint is, there used to be the fuse panel was there along with a relay for sending power to that fuse panel. When I turned the key on, the relay would trigger and send power to power, the injectors, the coils, the mega squirt itself. It just sent power to the entire rest of the car. I removed that because it just made it cluttered up here. There was too much wiring and crap going every which way, so I'm trying to clean it up, as you can see, by getting rid of the power, the Hydro Boost, the Hydro Boost, getting rid of all them lines, the reservoir, all that crap over there, and it's cleaning up nicely. So what I did is I moved all that stuff inside the car. Right now it's a little mess because I haven't cleaned up the wiring on it, or loomed it, made it nice. But so that relay block there with the 4 relays, I got that from, where did I get that from? Oh, Arc Auto Rod. I got it through Summit, but it was about $100. And there's one main power wire, that big red wire coming out from underneath it is the main power. So you hook that up and that supplies power to all 4 relays. Then each relay has its own individual fuse on the circuit board. And then the green connector there where the 2 blue wires are coming in is the trigger wire. So all you got to do is hook the power up to it and then hook up your trigger. And there's the fuse block that was out in the engine compartment. And then that thing next to it, the black thing on the right there, that is a solid state relay for my trans brake. So the button on the column there, or on the wheel, sends a trigger to the mega squirt. And then the mega squirt grounds that solid state relay there. And then that relay sends power out to the trans brake solenoid on the transmission to engage the trans brake. So that's where everything's there. I got a few things to finish wiring in there, to run all the wires up there, then I'll loom it and use some Tessa tape and wrap the harness up, try to make it as best looking as I can. So, but let's go ahead and get started. All right, guys, I got the throttle cable, I think, working. So, but I need you guys to look at it. Let me know if the throttle body blade opens up all the way. That way we know we're good to go like it is. Had to do some modifications to it. going all right. Let's take a peek at the footage y'all just saw, and let me see what we got. All right, guys, I got the driver's side turbo mounted up, bolted down. Only thing left to do is hook up the drain, the oil supply, and then the cold side. But that's simple enough to do. I wanted to ask you guys and see what you do, or if you have an opinion on this. So, V-band connections, they're not airtight. They're not meant to be airtight. They do a pretty good job at sealing, but you're not sealing everything in there. You know what I mean? It's just basically two flat surfaces, or some of them have a male-female connection, but there's no gasket or anything in there to seal it. Do any of you guys run? I know they make V-band connection gaskets, like either copper or aluminum gaskets, basically a shim that you stick on there and it, helps seal it. But I've started using some form of high temp RTV and have had pretty good luck with it. Obviously, RTV kind of makes a mess, but if you're careful with it and you use it sparingly, don't goop a whole big old bead on there. You get a nice thin layer of it and slide the V-band and everything together and clamp it down, man. Them things seal up nice. If I remember to, I'll show you guys once we get this thing all put together. We're going to smoke test it just to make sure all of our connections are tight. We didn't forget anything, so on and so forth. So I'll try to remember, and we'll smoke the hot side from the manifold to the turbine wheel on these. So definitely doing the cold side, turbo through the intercooler up to the throttle body, just to make sure we have no leaks anywhere. And because we're going to need all the drive pressure and all the boost we can get with this little motor, so got to make sure we're on top of that. But I just thought I'd ask you guys about that. That's just something I do, and it seems to work. Is it really helping anything? I don't know. Who knows? It helps me sleep at night, knowing that at least I got it sealed up as best as I can, and that's that. But let's see if I can get you a shot of the new JGS wastegate down there. I got her there. I haven't clocked her yet. I got to figure out which way I need to turn her. I did do this. Forgot to tell you that. So previous to this rebuild, overhaul, change up, whatever you want to call it, I had let's see if you can see it, that vacuum block there where I ran my wastegate source pressure from, blow-off valve pressure, map sensor ran from that, and I don't know, there might have been one or two other things. But that was from the, after the throttle body from the manifold. So it was seeing vacuum and boost. And now that we changed the setup up, I got a port already there for my map sensor, which is great. I don't need the hose running across there. With the wastegates, I decided, well, while I got the turbos off, I'm just going to drill them and tap them for 1/8 inch MPT, which is, the common size of these push to connect fittings for the, the vacuum and boost solenoids. So from there, I can turn it whatever way I need to. Probably want to keep it away from the exhaust, so I'll probably shoot it down, and then go down. See if I can zoom in for you guys. Go from right there, right down to the wastegate down there, and avoid the heat of the exhaust if I can. So, or as best I can. I got to somewhat, but it's a real short line. Before I had a super long line running from there all the way down to there, and I'm sure that affects spool up and all that shit some. But having a super short line directly to the, from the compressor cover to the wastegate, I think is probably the best option. You will, if I'm not going to have an issue because I'm running CO2, but if you're using just boost pressure on your electronic boost controller, if you're using that for your signal. Some people say that if you get the boost signal from pre-intercooler, so before the intercooler, off the intake, most people get from the intake, that you're getting a true boost, uh, you know, sequence, or you're getting the true amount of boost that the engine's seeing is what your wastegate signal line is seeing. So the signal you're getting is actual boost. If you get it pre-turbo, like this, you have a pressure drop across an intercooler because it's a restriction. So you might have 10 pounds coming out of the turbo into the intercooler, but by the time it goes through the intercooler, it might be down to 7. Okay, so you have a 3 psi drop through the intercooler. Well, if your boost controller is seeing 10 pounds because you got it plumbed in here, it's going to start cutting back boost before the engine itself actually gets to 10 pounds. So if we had a 3 pound difference before and after the intercooler, this is at 10 pounds. So the solenoid is starting to cut back duty cycle to slow the turbo down, but the intake manifold's only seeing 7 pounds. So that's an, but it can be tuned around. It ain't no big deal. But some people, that's their reasoning for wanting to go through the intake. I think either way it'll work for the most part, but we're gonna try this. I think it'll be good. Short line, right to the wastegate. That's just basically the main reason I did it. So let's see. I think I'm gonna hook up the drain, hook up the cold side pipe there, and I may wait on the oil feed for now because I gotta get the fan and shit in there still. But let's go ahead and do that, and then we'll move on. Maybe mount the other one and get the downpipes in. Here we go. All right, y'all. I got the cold pipe and the drain hooked up on it. Like I said, I'm gonna hold off on the oil feed till after I get the other turbo and the fan and all that stuff put in there. I ran into one issue that I didn't realize. I went to put on the dump tube for the wastegate on this side, and the flange for the dump tube is quite a bit. It'll work. It's the right flange, but the diameter is way different. This is like an 1.5 inch, tubing diameter for the dump tube, whereas for the 38, this is the size dump tube for the 38 millimeter tile wastegate. It's using like a 1.5 inch tube. The 40 millimeter JGS uses a 1.75 inch size. I can try to show you here. You can see the size difference. It's quite a bit larger, the opening on it. Let's see if I flip it over if it looks. Yeah, you know what I mean? The flange, or I guess the best way to show it would be this. Look at the size difference there. Quite a bit larger, so I gotta get some different pipe for it. Alright, y'all, I got the cold pipe and the drain hooked up on it. Like I said, I'm gonna hold off on the oil feed till after I get the other turbo and the fan and all that stuff put in there. I ran into one issue that I didn't realize. I went to put on the dump tube for the wastegate on this side, and the flange for the dump tube is quite a bit. It'll work. It's the right flange, but the diameter is way different. This is like an 1.5 inch, tubing diameter for the dump tube, whereas for the 38, this is the size dump tube for the 38 millimeter tile wastegate. It's using like a 1.5 inch tube. The 40 millimeter JGS uses a 1.75 inch size. I can try to show you here. Here, let me do it like this. Let me show you here. As you can see, you can make that out. all the, the pipe that you see inside of that ring is the old flange. So there's, from an inch and a half to inch and 3/4 inner diameter. It's quite a bit of difference. So, like I said, that won't work. So I got to order a piece of inch and 3/4 to make new dump pipe, which is no big deal. It's just mild steel. And so I got to get that coming. But yeah, didn't get a whole lot done today, but at least I got the turbo bolted up. I got the throttle set up. Oh yeah, I didn't show you this. So the stock throttle cable obviously wouldn't work. So I had to get a aftermarket Lokar universal. I got a 36-inch, which is way too long, but I can cut it if I feel like it. But if not, I might just route it and kind of run it like it is. But where it goes through the firewall there, the barrel on the Lokar is a 5/16 diameter. So you need a 5/16 hole to slide the cable through and then tighten the nut on the backside to hold the cable. Well, the hole that's in this firewall on these is significantly bigger than that. So I took some of the, I don't know what it is, 18 gauge sheet metal that I had, cut a rectangle out, drilled 2 holes in it for the bolts, and then one 5/16 hole for the, the cable. And I was able to slide the cable through, tighten the nut on it, and then use the existing bolt holes for the old, throttle cable and tighten that bracket down. And it works perfectly. I had to modify the stock gas pedal too, throttle. I forgot to film it, but if I pull it back out, I'll try to remember to film it, show you what I had to do. But the Lokar cable comes with a clevis on the pedal end, which a clevis won't work as is with the stock pedal in this Mustang. So I had to modify it a little bit, and I was able to attach the clevis and get it working. You saw in the earlier shot, I was able to get full travel on the throttle body, so that is good. So yeah, guys, I'm gonna call it a night. It's pretty late. I'm going to get cleaned up, get something to eat, and then be back out here probably tomorrow. Let's see. The injectors came, but the Bosch 210s are really short injectors. They're like, I think they're only 50 millimeters tall, and the top hat adapters that I had from the 1000cc Deechworks injectors, I thought would work. I thought they would be the right height, but they're not. I needed a little bit taller. They were a 1/2 inch adapter. I need a 1 inch adapter. So I had to order new top hats, and they're coming. So it'll be a couple days before they get here. But when they do show up, we'll throw them in and have the injectors installed, and then we can plug them in. I got to finish putting the 4 connectors on the driver's side. I haven't done that yet, but when they get here, I will. And then we'll be able to plug them in, and that'll be taken care of. And we'll be able to check some things off this list here. But so yeah, everything's going pretty good, guys. Let's see, I got the starter bolted up, and the wires ran to that. I tightened the motor mounts because I had not done that yet. So I tightened the motor mounts, throttle cable. Yeah, just a bunch of little random stuff, guys. I'm just knocking the stuff off the list. So, but like I said, I'm gonna cut it off here, and I'll be back out here tomorrow. So I'll have another video in the next couple days for you guys. And hope you guys get your projects going. Get out there and then run them down the track, or run them down the street, or autocross, or whatever you guys like to do with your car. Hope the thing rips, man. That's all we're all here trying to do, is have some fun and go fast, man. That's everybody's goal, right? But all right, guys, we'll see you on the next one.